What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the garage. Welcome to the #1 live tuning show in all the universe. Welcome back to Andrew, our main man moderator. And we've got a couple people in here already. What's going on? Jordan, are you still in here or did you leave? Stefan, what's going on? Schmidt, good to see you again. My skin is so dry. If you see me just scratching down here, don't think anything about it. It's because I have been scrubbing my skin off to get all of the gunk off of my skin every day from working on the Typhoon. And everything is out of it that has to come out of it, right? We start the wiring process, which is not going to be easy.
I seen the pic on Instagram or whatever. It was just like stripped pretty much, and then just the pile of parts waiting.
I went through it today and cut out everything from the main harness that I didn't need in the main harness. What up, Jeff, Russ, and De La Soul, Victor? Took everything out of the main harness that I didn't need. The part that goes over to the bulkhead where the fuse block is that ties into the factory gauges and all that stuff. So I retained everything that I needed to on that part of it to make life easy. But started getting into the fuel tech stuff today and realized I did not have the proper size deep pinning tool to take out some of the pins for like wires that I didn't need because I want to try to keep it clean. But it's going to be cool. I'll be doing some videos on that stuff. Well, Brad and thanks WS6. Steve,
Yeah,
I think I already said Steve. So yeah, what's going on, everybody? Let's talk about tuning. What's going on in Andrew's world?
Well, just a bit of maintenance, I guess. It's got to get done, I guess. So doing a bit of wrenching, brakes, new OTR over the radiator intake on the wagon. So that's installed. I guess it's like a 12-year-old car or something like that, which, maybe isn't that old in the grand scheme of things. But parts break down and things like that. So that one's been broken, I think, since I bought the car. So fixed that up and made it look pretty. So
there you go. But, I actually ordered a part for the Typhoon from Australia today, of all places.
Okay.
So I found out I needed tall valve covers to clear the roller rockers that I installed on there, and the only place I could find them was out of Australia, and they were expensive.
The shipping okay though?
$85 for shipping, standard, which
heavy.
seems a little heavy. $85 for standard shipping. I would have expected some expedited shipping at that price.
Express. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Hey, De La Soul, thanks for the heads up on the code from HP Tuners. I will contact them and figure out what's going on with those guys. I don't know. Don't get me started.
Mr. Schmidt has got a question about, so I had to get a new laptop and now have Windows 11. So my MPIV1 Pro should arrive at HP Tuners tomorrow for the swap to upgrade to an MPVI2 Plus with ProLink. Anything to watch out for?
Nope, just whenever you get the new one in, resync it. That way it'll get all of your credits and we'll get your ProLink set up. I'm actually having issues with my ProLink Plus. I got set up in the GTO right now, and I've got the glow shift gauge, which I've been pretty happy with. I'll do a review on it here soon, but there's a couple things I'm not happy about with it. But my ProLink, it's coming in and out. And I don't know if anybody's used the Bluetooth to do scanning on the new units, but my ProLink always disappears whenever I scan over Bluetooth, and I have to unplug it, plug the USB in, plug it back into the OBD2 port to get those analog channels to show back up. So, I don't know.
Nothing's easy.
Exactly.
Says me still on my MPIV1 standard.
Hey man, if it ain't broke,
does the job.
Exactly.
Okay, we got TG Huavas. Sorry if I have mispronounced that. What do you guys think about the new leaked ZR1 Corvette 5.5 litre twin turbo LT7?
Oh, apparently I've not seen that one, TJ. I'll have to go look that up. I didn't realize that they're going to be doing a 5.5 twin turbo. Are they going to keep that a flat plane crank like the Z06? Are they going to do like Ford did whenever they went over to the 5.2 supercharge and put it on a standard crankset flat plane? I'll have to look it up.
They do a lot of turbo stock cars. I thought they would normally do superchargers like the LSA and things like that.
Yeah, man,
Is
there's
that
no
kind of
telling what they're
new for
doing
them?
on this generation. Everything's different.
Turbos?
So maybe they're just, well, the Blackwing motor that they came out with Cadillac was a hot V turbo setup instead of a supercharger.
Right, that's
So
right.
it's kind of probably similar to what was going on there.
And I remember they used to, I think a long time ago, they did a bit of a concept, maybe it might, twin turbo on the V6. I remember a really old Holden Tirana concept, and they sort of floated that idea. So who knows?
Interesting. Interesting.
See if I can find a picture for it.
Let's see. What else we got? Stephen R, 19 miles per gallon, good for a 6.2 Denali. Can't complain how good is the factory tune. Can't really find 2 more miles per gallon at highway cruise with a Lambda and HP tuners. Can I really find 2 more miles per gallon at highway cruise? 2 more miles per gallon might be a stretch over a factory tune. Depending, you said it's a 2012. Well, 2012, you might be able to pick it up. 2012 is not going to be quite as efficient on the factory tune. So, definitely a chance there. And Andy H asked about aftermarket computers. Yeah, I've done a few different aftermarket. I've done the Holley EFI and the Terminator, the AEM, Megasquirt, and now we're doing a Fuel Tech.
Cool. I might see how that hooked up. That'd be
I'm
awesome.
excited for it. I'm excited. Okay, he says the ZR1 will be a flat plane crank twin turbo.
Oh, Tyler looks like he's going to have some fun. Just got a Pro charger for my Camaro and a new laptop.
Sweet.
I'm ready to rock and roll.
Sweet. That's what I'm talking about. What year's your Camaro? And yeah, I got the wideband. Okay, Tyler asked if I got the wideband, the GTO yet. I've got the glow shift set up and running as a narrowband simulator. I've been testing it out before I do the review on it. That'll be coming out probably this weekend or so. And then the Innovate is all except for the sensors installed on that one. So I'll be doing that in downtime in between finding time with all of the Typhoon crap that's going on. Typhoon is by far like everything that my spare time is going into right now.
Priority. Got a Rocky Mountain Raceway ain't too far away.
It's too close. That's the
Creeps up
problem.
on you. Yeah.
Ooh, 2021 LT1 Camaro. Have fun with that, Tyler. Those things are a pain in the butt. Just remember, you can't disable closed loop through the tune. You have to do it through the scanner.
Interesting. I don't know how good your 4L60 tuning is. What Red Vet says, wondering why I'm getting a hard downshift for my 4L60 in my C5 after long drives at 75 to 80 mile an hour. It only happens after long continuous driving at the same RPM, 373 gears, cam, dyno tune.
Man, I would think that'd have to be a temperature related stuff. Red Vet, have you swapped out your fluid lately? Checked it? Make sure it's still nice and red? Because if it is after a long drive at 75 to 80, theoretically, your torque converter should be locked up at that point in time. But you could, I don't know.
Is it not unlocking? I don't know.
Yeah, something could be causing heat. It could be a heat issue. Russ Payne brings in the heat, saying, I heard rumors that C8 ECU was cracked by Trifecta Performance. I don't know. I'd have to see it to believe it. I don't know. I don't buy it. They threw up a dyno chart showing no power gains whatsoever and then complimented GM on how well the ECU was tuned. And the thing about it is I could believe that because I'm guessing on the C8s that they're using wide bands instead of narrow bands finally, and so that thing should be in the power all the time. Whereas back in the day, there was always power to be made because the tune was so sloppy. What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, I think all the other manufacturers are moving to wide bands for their feedback loop anyway. So you'd think the fueling would be spot on. Who knows whether they start to go for that.
Do you think
AI or
Trifecta's
machine
cracked this
learning
thing?
stuff? Yeah. Sorry.
Do you think Trifecta's cracked the C8 ECU? Do you think they're the first people that's done it?
I think HP tuners would have heaps of people on it. Surely, I would have thought, and those guys would know ECUs inside out more than anyone, right? So,
That would be my
maybe.
assumption is that I'm guessing that there's probably 6 or 7 engineers over at HP Tuners trying to crack it.
Yeah.
I mean, Trifecta is not by no means a fly-by-night shop, but they're not that big. I would just be surprised. I would need to see, and they're not going to show it because they're going to try to keep it proprietary, and they're going to want to do canned tunes. They're going to want to do email tunes. They're not going to do custom tuning. So, you're going to have to pay them to tune it, which just everything about it is.
But I guess
Brad,
I mean.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, man.
Brad. Okay. Brad said that he turned his VATS off and now it starts. Would that be the BCM? No. Well, I don't know. It could be. It's on a Statesman 5.7. I wouldn't think the BCM would have anything to do with VATS, but I honestly don't know. Oh, Mike's Garage asked how I use the wide to sim the narrowband. The one that I have, Mike, has a 0 to 1 volt output on it for simulating the narrowband. And I'll touch on how I did the wiring on it whenever I do the review.
Yeah, that'd be cool to have it, you'd be able to see the closed loop working as well.
And it is working. It does have an issue where it is reporting as a slow switching voltage on there, which is to be kind of expected because if you look at normal narrowband, that voltage is going from like 0.2 to 0.8.
It swings. Yeah.
Just all the time, and being that it is taking a wideband signal and converting it over to a narrowband, that thing floats a lot closer. It's between like 3.5 and 5.5 all the time.
It might be an electronics thing as well for noise emissions or something if it switches too fast, maybe.
They have a about, even on the older, this is P59, they have about 4 or 5 different check engine lights that can pop for voltage issues on that. And I turned the heaters off obviously because I didn't want to wire a resistor up into the heaters to spoof those, but the voltage switching has been the only one that I've had an issue with. So we'll see. I've still got to run it a little while and see how it's doing, and then I'll hook up the Innovate to the other bank and basically be simulating both of them as narrowbands. Do you know when HP Tuners will figure out about unlocking my trans so I can tune it? Tyler asked. No clue. They don't share any of that information with me. I've signed multiple NDAs with HP Tuners, and even whenever I ask questions about what is going to be supported and what timeline,
secret.
Yeah, they don't even know. They get surprised whenever something new pops out. I think their engineers just dumps it on their plate and says, "Oh, by the way." So. MPVI 1 doesn't work with Windows 11. It works with MPVI 2.
Noted. I better not upgrade then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Stick to Windows 10 if you don't want to upgrade. Brad says, might be the key or the key contact ring on ignition to send signal. That could be true. I didn't think about that because those are the old ones that have the ring with the resistor and the key fob.
Yeah, the WKs.
Yeah, exactly. And my GTO actually has that. And so if that is not working properly, I don't know, that would be the immobilizer, and I don't know if that's related to the BCM or not. But if it works with VATS turned off, just leave VATS turned off. I didn't even think about turning VATS off on those.
Fixed. Next.
Yeah, I might have to go pull my key out of the fob and see if I can start it with VATS off, and because it's just 2 screws and the key pulls out the end of it. Might have to try that out just see if it works.
Put in whatever you want. Oh no,
Yeah,
Mr.
exactly.
Shredder's laptop died, so he didn't have a choice.
That sucks. I actually have a $200 cheap tuning laptop that I'm getting ready to do a review on, the little Asus that I did. I've been really happy with it. It's for $200. It is the best cheap tuning laptop I have purchased so far. It still has some of my common gripes that I have on some of the cheap ones, but all in all,
What do you pay for? A good bang for buck.
You know, it's the first name brand. Normally, it's such a weird Chinese brand that I go with. It's like you've never heard of, and then they work all right and would get you by. But this is the first time of actually going out and trying to find one. That's a good one.
That sounds like a bit of fun, Timothy. I need a tune for my 6.0 Colorado with a 4L80. That sounds like a bit of fun.
That sounds scary. A truck that small with a 4L80 and a 6 liter. Timothy, I'm booked up, so it's going to be a while before I have any tunes available, unfortunately. But if you want to dive into it on your own, check out the Patreon, and we can work on getting it dialed in.
Yeah, give it a go. That'd be awesome. 6.0 Colorado. I wonder if that's is that a swap or is that a
Be a swap.
Ned 71 with an 80?
Yeah, because the Colorados, I don't think they came with the i5. That may have been it. I don't know. Was there a smaller motor on there? Andy H says, contacted HP Tuners in the past, a boost cut above the 100 mph. They found a boost timer parameter and updated the editor included. Do you see missing tune parameters being added frequently? Andy, yes. That's why we always run the beta, because it's going to have the latest and greatest parameters, both in the editor and the scanner. So,
Leading edge.
yeah, and it's more prevalent. I'm guessing you're on a 2015 plus vehicle that's maybe supercharged or something like that. You're on a vehicle that is newer. Older stuff, yeah, they basically everything's in there by now. They've figured out all the tables that everybody's asking for is ever going to need. But as new stuff rolls out, they're always finding new parameters, tables, things like that to add in there. So definitely pay attention to when a new beta comes out, which a new beta comes out generally, once or twice a week. I've had them update betas on the fly for me whenever I was doing some testing on some CAN bus stuff for them a couple years ago. And they were making changes to the beta and just posting it to the beta download. They told me, go to the download section. It just downloaded the latest beta. We updated it 5 minutes ago. So,
especially for like weird problems and things like that they go back in as people, do more and more different things, I guess.
The nice thing about beta is they just basically do anything because it has the giant disclaimer pop up as soon as you do it. So if it screws something up, it's on you technically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which Joe was on Sloppy Mechanics radio show, Tyler? I don't know. I don't ever talk to Sloppy Mechanics. It's one of the guys, which I enjoy everything he does, but he's just somebody that I have never really talked to. I talk to a lot of people in the industry, but... Oh, Simpson. Gotcha. We need to have Joe back on here. It's been a while.
I've been watching a few of his videos as well.
Joe's?
So, yeah, just some Holly stuff and just his even just his techniques and how he does stuff, and it's quite interesting how he does the dyno tuning itself by the constant holding it at the constant RPM and mapping out the fuel table.
Yeah, that's sweet.
I mean, yeah, I'm obviously a bit jealous of stock ECU and the versus the real time. You just plug in the values and you can literally see the wideband, move up straight away. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, just his methodology and things like that. It's quite interesting. I mean, even though it's Holly stuff, it's some of those sort of techniques and tips transfer across.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
exactly.
Learning.
It's just it's the easy way of doing things.
It's cheating.
Yeah, it's cheating. Makes it too easy. Indo, any recommendations for initial tune timing for a heads cams intake LS1? I mean, start stock. No, you don't need to. For head cam intake, you don't need to drop initial timing for a tune. You should be perfectly fine on the stock timing on there. Really, the only time that you really need to go in and start dropping timing is whenever you start adding boost in. And then you just want to make sure you're safe there.
I think we missed this one from Jeff. What's a safe AFR when you have the gauge set up for pump gas, but you're running E85?
Oof.
That's the tricky bit. Lambda, right? But
So
um,
30%. So
but at the end of the day, if he's still got it on pump gas tune, I guess stoic for even if it is running on E85, if the gauge is set to pump gas, it's still going to read 14.7 or something like that, I guess. So hence
okay,
why we prefer lambda, right?
let's get into the math here. So you have the gauge set up for pump gas, but you're running E85. So I'm assuming that the tune is set up for E85. Oh god, that's tough because technically, yeah, Andrew's right because the gauge, regardless if it's showing in AFR, it's actually reading in lambda and is converting the lambda into
Does the
AFR.
math.
So
Yeah.
whenever you would normally command 13.4, whatever it is for E85, that's not the right number. I just pulled that off the top of my head. It's actually still going to be 14.7 because you have to be aware of what's going on with the gauge in the background and how it's deriving the AFR calculation. So it's taking one lambda and dividing it by 14.7 to put it in the gas range of AFR. Tune in lambda. Tune in lambda. Tune in lambda.
Then it reads the correct stoic, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the idea behind lambda, I guess. It doesn't matter what fuel's in there.
Bingo.
Stoic's always going to read at 1.0.
Well,
So
all of your widebands are lambda gauges. They're lambda sensors. They call them wideband air fuel ratio, but they're actually lambda sensors, and they operate in the lambda range. So, yeah. Never see more than 10.5 kilohertz MAF frequency on my scanner. Should I be seeing more on my caddy? 8.6 lower, 2.65 upper in stock engine. Schmidt head, that's going to be dependent on your intake size. So remember, as we go to a bigger intake size where our mass airflow sensor is going to see lower hertz, if you've got a big gulp rotofab or something on there that's huge tune required intake, you're going to see lower frequencies. Whereas if you're running a 3-inch, you're going to see high frequencies. So that's all relative to your intake. Having trouble with TCC. And Timothy's just having all kinds of 4L80 problems. You need to do probably go through the troubleshooting on the 4L80. You need to get a pressure gauge, hook it up to the test pressure port, go through all the steps, and make sure that all of your pressures are looking good and everything's doing what it's supposed to be doing. If you're still on a stock 4L80 tune, because you shouldn't be having issues unless the shifting. If your speedo's off, make sure your speeds are right. Make sure your gear ratio is in the tune correctly and your tire size is in the tune correctly, because that can cause issues with shifting and issues with lockup.
Yeah, I'd certainly be interested to see, I guess, obviously you've done the swap, what sort of ECU and TCM, I guess, because I'm not sure if that's a standard sort of thing, the 6 litre with the 4L80. So that's why I was wondering, whether that's a normally they come with a 6L80 and it's an E38 or something like that, and then I don't know, segment swap. How do you get a 4L80 to work in place of a 6L80? I don't know.
Well, it depends on what platform it was on, because if you're going into the 4th generations, it's going to be a separate TCM, but the TCMs talk the same basic parameters in between the two, so it won't have much of an issue there. So Donald Oaks asks, clutch cutoff, do you max or min enable VSS RPM in ECT? Max them out. So that way you're not cutting fuel whenever you clutch it. Or you could go into your scanner and just set up a filter off your clutch position.
Yeah. I think I just did ECT on mine for the tuning. That's for the clutch fuel cutoff, I assume.
Yeah. Normally I just do ECT on, but there's been a couple of platforms I've done recently that seem like just doing the ECT table has not been enough, and it'll still go into cutoff. And so I've kind of just been going through and bombing all of them out and raising the disable and lowering the enables to try and keep it from doing that. It's one of those things that it may work on an E38, but an E68 or whatever it does not work on for whatever reason. It's like, this is technically the same ECU, which is more resolution on. Why is this not acting the same?
But isn't that the definition of insanity?
Yeah, exactly.
Doing the same thing, expecting different results. If we get the other way, different results doing the same thing.
Exactly. Mike, I tuned my air for bigger injectors, but I still hit 100% injector duty cycle. How can I deal with that? Running 42, 60, too big for my engine. Raise your fuel pressure, Mike. Duty cycle is going to be fuel pressure, dependent versus manifold air pressure dependent. If you're running out of duty cycle, try raising your fuel pressure up 5 pounds, maybe 10 if you're at 100 already, and that will get you more flow through the injectors you have. Well, if you've already did that, man, you're going to have to go to bigger injectors. It's your only recourse. Oh, good
Actually,
Lord.
that's not NA. What are they? 42 pounds, 60 pounds, too big.
Nah, it's boosted. I don't know that the fuel pump's too small, or else you'd see fuel pressure dip. But it could be that also. MDO says, sorry, I forgot the punchline. I added a Vortec to that head cam's intake LS1. Well, I should drop the timing for initial tune. Depending on how much boost you're targeting on that MDO, if you're going like 8 pounds, drop at least 6 degrees, maybe 8 degrees. Start with like a degree per pound to be safe. So if you're peaking out at 26 degrees timing, drop it down to about 18 degrees max and start there, and then work back up. Keep an eye on. That'll at least keep you safe from going into catastrophic detonation or pre-detonation and blowing something up. So,
would you just do that for where you're more than, say, 100 kPa, or like when you're into boost, that's dropping the timing?
Yeah.
So I would assume the initial out of boost timing would probably still be okay.
I would start at 100 and then interpolate it down. So take like 6 to 8 degrees out of everything above 100, which, if it's on cylinder air mass, you'll have to see what kind of cylinder air mass that you're hitting. But down in the lower wide open throttle, and then interpolate it or smooth it down. So as you're even kind of transient into boost, you're pulling a little bit of timing there. So
Gotcha.
You need to jump off here and take your kids to school. It's about that time.
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah. Cheers.
Okay. Tell everybody tell Andrew goodbye. We'll see you later, brother.
Thanks, guys. Catch you later.
Okay. Where was I here? Try turning down fuel on my LS with cam SN95, but still rich. What am I doing wrong? Any help would be great. So there's a lot that could be going wrong, man. Need a little more input on there. Made my first attempt at getting IAC counts dialed into my GTO, and even with minor adjustments to the throttle, stop screw, the counts took off like crazy. Low teens to well over 150. Anthony, you got to give it time after you make a small adjustment and wait, a minute, 2 minutes. Give it time to settle back out, because whenever you make adjustments to that screw, the timing's also making adjustments to try and control the idle speed. And so you got to get the idle, the IAC counts time to settle down, and the timing times to settle down, and then, before you take it as a reading. So, how do you log fuel pressure on E38? E38 not have fuel pressure on it? I don't know. I can't remember every ECU that has fuel pressure and doesn't have fuel pressure. Off the wall question. I have no Ford GTO that I just got done supercharging. I'm tuning it myself. Cannot get the car to stop leaning out to 17 to 18 AFR. I'm doing math only right now, as my O2s are not working properly. But I cannot seem to figure out what is making it lean out. Doesn't matter what I set the math table as. Doesn't seem to affect wide open throttle. My pressure and duty cycle looks good. I'm at my wit's end. Man, a lot of stuff that could be going on there. Yeah, one stuck in the exhaust. I know that feeling, and they're a terror to get to on those. I know. Well, I mean, Crowder, to be honest, are you still running the old honeycomb math on that? Peak 16 degrees. Good. Perfect. MDO. El Chevy Flores, get my SD log for the C10. I'm sure I did, man. Been tied up all afternoon, so I'll check emails probably in the morning. Narrowband O2 set up for STFTs, LTFTs with headers. Can you show that on the GTO? I may show a little bit on there, but I really don't like to go into much narrowband tuning, Nicholas, because it's just the wrong way of doing it. Oh, 04 Mustang GT, not a GTO. Okay, so, dude, Crowder, I would have to just look at that data. Yeah, I don't know what the 04 Mustang GT math sensor looks like. You know, you're outside of my wheelhouse. Got a 2016 Colorado 3.6 like turbocharged. I'm having to check engine keep coming up from the throttle correlation running HP tuners. Alex, P0068, something like that, I'm guessing. Max out those tables if they're available. If not, just disable them in the DTC section. That is fairly common whenever you add forced induction to a normally aspirated. Oh, no, no, okay. Yeah, Nicholas, yeah, you definitely want to turn the trims back on. And you're just asking about adjusting them for the long tubes. Listen, I've got a video out there. It's not necessarily on that generation, but the theory is the same. You're basically adjusting the switching point on there whenever you put long tubes on. Normally the switching point's around 450 millivolts. I find with long tube headers that it's closer to 600 millivolts. And what I end up doing is I just tweak the settings until my wideband is reading stoic at idle, and that generally makes everything work out. But I'm 99% sure that I've got a video specifically on long tube headers, narrow bands. Maybe I don't. Maybe I need to do one on that. I'll do one on that. We'll talk about that. Yeah, I don't know. And Mdo brings up a good point, Crowder. Are you an open loop even though you have a bad O2 sensor? Is your fuel trims still trying to correct it? And on the Fords, though, without looking at a 04 GT file, I want to say that those things are either math only or VE only. I don't know that you can necessarily switch between the two. When climbing hills, I get to 10 psi boost without going to PE. I heard the E78 controller doesn't go into PE in those cases. A few others, would that cause issues? You know, because it has a boost enrichment table on there, make sure that your standard power enrichment table is dialed in also, because it could be an issue like that. That's interesting, Nicholas. Normally the number gets higher whenever you put long tubes on. Says that his was closer to 400 millivolts to reach stoic, but you're on the right track. You know, basically it's adjusting those to see where the switching is, and you can actually like log your millivolts and put it into an average and see what the average is to get a better idea of what it should be set at. I can do a video on that. It's pretty simple stuff, but it's good information to have. So it is 8:32, everybody. So let's finish up a couple questions here. Call it a night. I gotta get up early so I can go to work and then start working on the Typhoon. Oh, that was you, Nicholas. Yeah, it was a good looking VE table, man. You're doing a good job. Now that I'm boosted, will closed loop still work well? Yes, it will. No reason not to have closed loop whenever you're done dialing everything else in. Turn closed loop back on. Turn long terms back on. There's no reason to keep long terms disabled. You know, ideally the long-term table populates and the short-term table keeps you know, small numbers in there, because that's the only adjustments that needs. Where's the table? It should be in the row to the left of the boost enrichment table, Mike, if it's on that platform. So Alex, what if my Spark table axis only runs up to 128 grams on the you know, if it's on one of the platforms that you can adjust it, you're just going to be operating on that bottom line. So that's going to be your max timing. So think of it as like an old mechanical distributor or something that you're just going to have a max wide open throttle timing on there, and you'll have to adjust that line. Now, some of them you can right click on the rows and edit the rows and actually go out beyond the 128. Just make sure that you keep that linear and realize that if you lower those rows out, that the numbers don't change. And so you could go from 128 out to 2 grams, but you're still going to be commanding the same amount of timing at 2 grams until you update the table, which would be bad. So, awesome. Can really spicy timing cause it to seem lean? No, not really. I mean, regardless of the timing, Crowder, your fueling should be good to go. There are some things that can cause false leans. Obviously, pinholes, leaking headers, running too rich sometimes can cause false leans. You know, but if it's a true lean, I don't think it's going to be a timing issue. So, listen, everybody, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks, as always, for stopping by for another great Thursday night. Great questions, as always. Great interaction. You guys are the greatest. We'll see you. I have every intention of being here next Thursday. Things have been a little bit crazy, but you know how that goes. We'll try and be here next Thursday for another episode of the #1 live tuning show on all the interwebs and the universe. You guys know the drill. ABT, always be tuning.